Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining. This is an opportunity to acknowledge the great police work of the Providence Police. Behind me are the men and women that do the work every single day. And in front of me is what is killing our community. And as a result of this great work and the efforts of this police department, we want to share some of the strategies and some of the results over the summer and year over year. The mayor of the city of Providence, Jorge Elorza, and I talk, as I say, every time I can publicly, every single day about crime and violence and what the Providence Police are doing to prevent and disrupt crime. So let me ask the mayor of the city of Providence, Jorge Elorza, to open it up, say a few words, and then we'll go to the colonel, or the police chief of Providence, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Mayor Elorza.
So good afternoon, everyone. Is it good afternoon? Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. The message for today, more than anything else, is celebrating and appreciating the amazing work that our police officers and our police department does every day to fight crime and to keep us safe. What you see in front of you is just some of the proof. These are all of the guns that have been taken off of the streets because of good police work since the last time that we came together. Look at in front of you. This is a veritable arsenal. And I don't have to tell you how challenging it is, how difficult it is, and how dangerous it is to make arrests and to seize weapons when weapons are involved. But that's what our police department does every day. So this is part of an ongoing effort to make sure that we highlight the good work that our police department and our police officers do every day. Just the reality of life is that bad news travels fast. But we want to make sure that good news gets recognized just as much. So what you see here in front of you is, how many is it? It's about 20 weapons?
20 weapons, 6 are ghost guns.
Yep. 20 weapons and 6 ghost guns. I'll get back to the ghost gun piece in just a second, but these are 20 weapons, many of which are likely or were likely to be used in an actual crime that have been taken off the street, helping to keep us safe. And we've handed out some crime statistics and some crime numbers. What you have in front of you is the fact that we're seeing a sharp decrease in crime this summer. I also want to give a shout out to Dan Clement from the police department, who puts a lot of this data together. He crunches the numbers, makes sure they're accurate and they're presented in a way that they can be used. But what we've seen over this summer, in comparison to previous summers, is this sharp decrease in violent crime as a whole. In fact, there's been a 35% decrease this year under the 5-year average. And what we're seeing even more of is an even bigger decrease in violent crime that involves a firearm. In fact, we've seen a 49% decrease this summer from what the historical trend has been. But it's not just crimes with a firearm, it's also violent crimes without a firearm. Those are down by 31%. So, on the whole, as we look back, towards the very tail end of the summer, we have what has probably been, one of, if not the safest summers in the city in at least a generation, maybe 40 or 50 years. And these guns that you see in front of you are part of the reason why. In 2020, as of August 25th, or as of today, we had 56 firearms that were recovered. The following year, 2021, as of today, we had 152 weapons that were recovered. This year, already, as of today, we have 212 weapons that have been recovered. That work does not happen on its own. It's because of the training, the attentiveness, and frankly, frankly, the bravery of our police officers. And the actions of our officers, they've translated into the numbers and the statistics that you have in front of you that help us sleep safe and be safe every day in the city. So you also have in front of you a chart that shows the number of shootings that we've had in previous years, year to date. What you have in front of you is that we're showing the second lowest number of shooting victims, perhaps in our history, certainly as far back as our records go. The only year that was lower is 2019, that the numbers were so low, it was probably an outlier. But aside from 2019, what we're seeing this summer is perhaps the lowest in our history, certainly the lowest in our records. What you're also seeing is the lowest number of homicides year to date that our records have. So going back to probably 1972, exactly 50 years, we have not been this low in terms of homicides year to date, the number's 5, in such a long time. So, you know, there's reason for cautious optimism. There's, you know, reasons to celebrate the fact that people are safer in our community. But make no mistake about it, you know, it takes an entire village to make this happen, but without the bravery, the training, and the attentiveness of our police officers, none of this would be happening. So we wanted to not only share this information with the broader community, but also publicly recognize, you know, some of the folks that are involved on patrol and in their duties in getting these guns off of the streets. To all the officers, we want to let you know that we appreciate you, we recognize the work that you're doing, and you are helping to keep us safe as you fight crime out there. The next thing that I want to mention is we announced last week, the Attorney General announced that there has been an arrest, or rather an indictment, in the horrible homicide of Maya Brophy Behrman. You know, if you remember, roughly a year ago, this is the young, innocent woman who was gunned down by a bullet over by University Heights. Our detectives never gave up on the case. Our police department never gave up on the case. And again, if it wasn't for that attentiveness and frankly, good old-fashioned police work, that case would have never been solved. And so thank you to the men and women in the police department, and in particular to the detectives handling that case, that we were able to, if not undo the horrible tragedy that occurred last year, but at least bring some measure of justice and closure to the family that was involved. Now, with all that said, I want you to know that the last thing that we're going to do as a police department is rest on our laurels. There's always more that we can do, and there's always more that we are going to do. So I'm very happy and excited to also announce that the FLOC program, the automatic license plate readers, the LPRs, that we announced roughly a month ago, they're ready to go live tomorrow. The training has occurred, and we're ready to flip the switch on tomorrow. So to anyone out there that's concerned, know that we aren't taking anything for granted, and we're always looking for how we can anticipate, look around the corner, and fend off crime in the future. And I want you to know that we're using these tools. For anyone out there that might be considering committing a crime of violence in our city, and I want you to know that the men and women in our police department are as good as it gets, and you are not going to be allowed to run around without having to look over your shoulder, knowing that if you're up to no good, we're going to get you. But on top of that, these license plate readers, they're going to make it much, much more difficult to commit a crime, especially a violent crime in the city, and get away with it. So thank you to our men and women in uniform. I want the public to know that we are not resting on our laurels. And while we have a lot to celebrate from perhaps one of the lowest crime summers that we've had in our history, and there's still much more work to do, and we are at it every single day. So that's it for me, and I'll hand it back to the Commissioner.
Thanks, Mayor. Let me also acknowledge not only the men, I think they're all men behind me that were instrumental in grabbing guns. There are many others that couldn't make it here today, and it's a team effort, police work. Every single police officer in this department contributes to the prevention, apprehension, and seizure of guns. So if you're not here, you know who you are. We appreciate your work, because we do have police officers out there that do this real important work. So we appreciate you coming, because we wanted to acknowledge you. I know how difficult it is to seize a gun. It's not easy. It takes courage, and it takes good police work to do it. And these men behind me, as I said, and others out there, both women and men, do an outstanding job. I've been in one other police department in my career, and the men and women of this police department do outstanding work, and I'm proud to be on their team. I see every single day and night the reports that come in violence and in investigations. Some in the detectives, some the back of this room. The very best police officers and detectives in this country. So keep up the good work. You do make a difference. Every case matters, and I know the diligence that goes into each violent crime and every crime that's reported. Let me ask the Colonel of the Providence Police, Hugh Clements, to say a few words, and then we'll close with any questions you may have. Colonel?
Commissioner, Mayor, thank you. I thank the media for covering this important event, and I thank you both for letting this not go unnoticed and unsaid. This truly is tremendous police work. It's incredible. It really is. And I've been on this job a long time, as others on the dais here have been. We've had far more shootings during the course of a year, during the course of a summer. Nowhere near this type of seizure in firearms. So that's the dichotomy that we're seeing. The headlines around the country, in American cities all across this country, are that gun violence is rising sharply, very sharply, and that simply isn't the case here. And the reason for that is the police officers in this room. And I've asked them to attend, the commanders have asked them to attend, and I'm glad they did. I couldn't be more proud of the work they do. It is nothing short of courageous, heroic bravery. These are not easy arrests. They're foot chases, they're struggles, resisting arrest with somebody with a firearm in their hand, prone to use it. It's remarkable the restraint that these officers use. There have been at least up to 10 incidents where we could have returned fire. And but for the training, but for, probably more importantly, the experience. There are none better. In this region, maybe not the country. I'm connected with a lot of police departments. These officers are the best. And I felt it had to be said for the work they do, and it really is a coordinated effort. I mean, the guys in patrol, some from the most recent school, or the last couple of schools, they already have more experience under their belt than police officers with 20 years on the job elsewhere, by what they've seen, by what they've done. But I commend the Patrol Bureau, the leadership of this police department, the training, the district commanders. But it's a coordinated effort with patrol, detectives, narcotics, intelligence, the gun task force, the violent crime task force. It's just a series of information being passed around, and those officers who become very skilled at identifying someone carrying a gun, they know the individuals who are players, who are prone to carry a firearm, and more importantly, to pull the trigger. And they know who they're dealing with. We've become far more, and I've used this term before, surgical, strategic in our approach in identifying predominantly young men in the community who illegally possess firearms. And these officers know the characteristics, to look for someone illegally possessing a firearm. And again, great teamwork, and I worry all the time. I send emails, I can't even keep up. I try to send an email when I'm catching up to these officers when they make, and they know it, when they make an apprehension, and I end each one by saying, continue to be safe, because it is that dangerous. Some of the firepower here, there's one right up front, can rip right through a bulletproof vest. And it's dangerous work. And, you know, they don't always get it right, but they're damn good. And the work is remarkable. As well, we've had many, as we always do, many major events during the course of the year, during the course of a summer. So as this press conference is about violent crime down during this summer, keep in mind also, we have major events in this city. PVD Fest, 100,000 people during the course of the weekend. Pride Parade, up to 100,000 people. 4th of July festivities, all sorts of cultural events. Cape Verdean Festival, Puerto Rican Festival, Dominican Festival, and many others. Huge water fires, up to 30, 40, 60,000 people. All of these require strategy and planning prior to those events. And we get the district commanders, and we get we make an operational plan, everyone's at the table, and all of those events went off seamless this summer with no violence. That's no small undertaking in a city of this size. And you know, things could change at any moment, we know that, but that's all but for the good work and strategy of the men and women of the Providence Police Department. I mean, they're just so good. When they pull up on the scene, there could be 10, a dozen individuals standing there, and you read the reports, and not only in the reports, I've watched the body-worn cameras, they know immediately when they pull up who's possessing a firearm, by their mannerisms, by their wide eyes, by the way they shield their body, by the way they're gripping and clutching at their waistband, consciously or unconsciously. A great way to carry these illegal firearms now is with satchels and a shoulder holster type bag, a fanny pack, a backpack. They blade their body away from the police officer. And these are all characteristics that they know and they key in on. And when there's a group of several individuals on scene, they target that right one. We had 2 more last night. 2 gun arrests last night. And one, I watched the body-worn camera. Incredible police work. And these guys marvel at the work of each other. If any one of these officers watched that body-worn camera by another real great police officer, Eric Shabbat, last night, I mean, he pulls up on the scene. There's no time to think. He just reacts. And within like a half a second, he's jumping out of his patrol car with a K9 in the back, chasing someone down the street who just shot someone in the neck. And within seconds, he's chasing this individual down the street and has the wherewithal to pull his taser and take that individual down. Incredible textbook police work, none better. And you know, oftentimes, we've gone several years without 2 years ago I reported, we picked up our BCI unit is a huge ingredient in everything we do as well. We rely on them for all of these crime scenes, but I think it was 2 years ago we picked up 1,650 shell casings, and I reported not one of those shell casings came from the gun of a Providence police officer. It's a dangerous environment that they're working in, and I'll leave with this. Look, the point of this story, it's fascinating, amazing police work, it really is. And unquestionably, it's saving lives, it's preventing more victims in this city of gunfire. You can't, we had one stretch, it was a 4-hour stretch, I believe, we recovered 7 firearms from one incident off Allen's Avenue. And within a couple-hour period, it might have even been a 2-hour period, we recovered all these firearms. You can't tell me that if we don't make those 7 gun apprehensions, there's not several gunshot victims. Incredible work. They're keeping people safe. They're keeping this community safe. Sometimes when I'm at home, certainly when the community's asleep, but great work. I couldn't be more proud of the officers for their skill, for their professionalism. I thank them for being here, and they should be proud of the work they do.
Chief, can you talk about ghost guns?
Ghost guns. So we've had a proliferation over the last 2 years. We track gun data every single year, and thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. So from like 2015 on, ghost guns started to become prevalent in the West Coast, and the proliferation hadn't reached the East Coast until the late teens. So we had 0.001, I think we had 1 ghost gun in 2018. Not until 2021, we had all zeros, we had 1 ghost gun. Last year we had 15, this year we're up to over 20 ghost guns. So these are oftentimes referred to as PMFs, personally made firearms. They come in a kit. It's an 80% gun. There's a polymer 80. It comes 80% already made, this firearm, and if you're skillful at making a firearm, all you need is a drill and a vice grip, and you drill some holes, and you make the portion of the gun where you put the trigger. So we're starting to see more and more of those guns, and they're scary in their own right. They're ghost guns because they can't be traced. And they now have become illegal, but there's many of them out there. There are hundreds of millions of firearms out there in our communities. We're concerned with the illegal ones, and we're confronted with that right here. All of these are illegal firearms. But the ghost guns can also easily be transformed into automatic weapons. So that's a concern in the community for victimization, and that's a concern for these police officers as well. So I salute you, the officers of this department, really, for incredible work. Thank you.